After 3 years of the English Civil War saturating the English Isle, the birth of a 2-centuries-long British military uniform distinction was introduced by the Parliamentarians in April of 1645, the Redcoat. The events that led to the creation of the Redcoat Army began the previous year. General Essex for Parliament had marched south to Weymouth to relieve Prince Maurice's siege of Lyme, and had counselled with a senior officer, Lord Robartes, who advised Essex that he could recruit fresh troops for his army in Cornwall, the furthest southwestern county of England. With Sir William Balfour, the Parliamentarians began their trek west, in what is now known as the Lostwithiel campaign. Previously, Prince Maurice had heard of Essex's approach and had lifted his siege of Lyme to rendezvous with King Charles in Exeter. Seeing the potential to trap Essex and the Parliamentarians, King Charles hastened his march from Exeter shortly after Essex had reached Tavistock. At about the time Essex had reached Bodmin, the Royalists had arrived at Launceston. In Bodmin, General Essex had belatedly realised the situation he was now caught in. Essex quickly marched south in hopes of an evacuation of his army by sea. General Essex ordered his cavalry, which had no chance of escape via ship, to slip from the Royalist trap. Under Commander Balfour, the horsemen were able to elude the enemy on August 31st. Meanwhile, 2 of the King's infantry units were dispatched to the coastline to discourage an escape by sea. It was all for naught though, as Parliament was unable to send a navy due to contrary winds. The Parliamentarians used the Iron Age hill fort of Castle Door as a defensive anchor, but out of fear of arrest and certain execution, General Essex retreated from the field of battle in a fisherman's boat. Infantry Commander, Philip Skippon, was now placed in charge. The anxious Parliamentarians were offered very generous terms of surrender by King Charles, and on the 2nd of September 1644, Skippon's men left their arms and equipment to return back east. The advice of Lord Robartes that the Parliamentarians would be welcomed in the southwest country was mistaken. The Englishmen in the area were loyal to the king, and nearly a third of the disarmed soldiers died of hunger, or had deserted. General Essex's reasoning for the Lostwithiel failure was due to a lack of offensive pressure from William Waller's own separate army. But it was not only Essex and Waller feuding, but also Cromwell and the Earl of Manchester who found an antipathy towards each other in Parliament's northern force, shortly after the victory of Marston Moor. Members of the House of Commons lost trust in Essex's leadership and wrote the Self-Denying Ordinance, a bill that would avoid the political minefield of rearranging Parliament's military hierarchy, and instead form a new, single national army. Essex, Waller, and Manchester would be financially cut off, and only soldiers with this new army would be paid. While the bill was being passed, the Second Battle of Newbury took place. A brilliant offensive manoeuvre by Parliament was squandered when a lack of communication afforded the escape of an encircled Royalist army. The need for centralised command was apparent. The new model army was officially born on April 3, 1645. Parliament's fighting men became full-time professionals instead of part-time, regional militias. Along with the preloaded cartridges in wooden bottles called by the men the 12 Apostles, another historical distinction began for English soldiers: red military uniforms. The reason for the color red was simple: it was the cheapest dye available. Sir Thomas Fairfax, son of Lord Fairfax, was chosen as general for the new model army. Although this young firebrand was not always loyal to the orders that were given to him by Parliament, he won the respect of the soldiers fighting for him.